Chef Troy Vincent here. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to be making a simple Cajun gumbo. Some people, do different things, so it depends on, I don't know what you're used to. So what I have here is a medium onion. I have almost 2 pounds of sliced andouille sausage. I sliced it about a 1/4 inch thick. I have about a cup of rice here. I have about a cup and a half of chicken, about a cup and a half of okra. I have almost 2 pounds of shrimp sliced the way I use it. I have one kind of Cajun seasoning, another kind of Cajun seasoning, so I use both of those. I have some fire roasted tomatoes, which some people like to use bell peppers and carrots or I mean, they put all kinds of stuff in their gumbo, but I don't really care for it that way. And corn, they'll put corn in it. I don't use corn either. But this is fire roasted tomatoes and green chilies, and then tomato sauce. I got a can of tomato sauce. So, and what I have here is gumbo filet. Now, you can buy gumbo filet, but I actually go every year down south. I'll pick sassafras leaves. I'll find some real pretty nice ones. I'll bring them home, dry them out, and I grind them and make gumbo filet, which if you know anything about gumbo, so now some people claim that you use okra as a thickener and that you use gumbo filet as a thickener, but I disagree completely. Gumbo has a flavor, and gumbo filet, they use sassafras, or they used to use it to make root beer. Now they switched over and they use sarsaparilla instead of sassafras, but you can still buy sassafras syrup and stuff to make sassafras tea. So you can, if you can find sassafras leaves and you want to dry them and make your own gumbo filet, that's fine. Again, I have about one medium to small onion here. I already said that, I think, and about a cup of flour. Now what I did here though is I put about a cup of flour in here because I had some extra butter I had melted earlier, and plus this stick. So I'm going to use this stick and this, and I'm going to get that in the pot and get the camera set up, and I'll start showing y'all how to do this. Okay, now I've got the butter melted. I didn't want to bore you with little details, so here we go. We're going to start off putting at least half of that flour in there, maybe a little bit more. I want to see the consistency of it, because what you do with a good Cajun gumbo, you always start out with a roux. And roux, of course, I don't know if you know, is flour and butter. So you melt the butter, add the flour, and it needs a little bit more. I did add extra butter, so see, I'm glad I put an extra bit of flour in this bowl. But normally I would use about a half cup of flour to a half cup of, or to a stick of, half cup of flour to a stick of butter. Depends on you. But that's about the ratio, the right ratio for it. Oh, a tiny bit more. You know what? I'm gonna just put it all. I did have quite a bit of butter there. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect, actually. And what you want to do with roux, now if I were making a bechamel sauce, I would start out exactly the same. I don't know if you've heard of bechamel. I would start out exactly the same, but as soon as it started to cook for a minute, you start adding cream, and it makes a thick gravy-like sauce. And then from there, if you wanted to make Mornay, you would add wine, which I did that in my other video, I believe. No, I haven't done that yet. I haven't made. I wanted to do Kentucky hot browns. That's what I use for Kentucky hot browns. But you would put wine and like Gruyere cheese in the Mornay. So after you add the cream, and then you want to keep bechamel like a light color. But we're making gumbo, so what you're going to do is you're going to let the keep stirring it, don't let it burn. But you'll want to brown this till it gets what they call a brick red color. Okay, Now, sometimes for the sake of time, I would have, but I mean for the video, for the sake of time, I would have already taken my onions and sauteed them and took them back out and then put the butter in, so I could just put them in sauteed, and then I would be putting the rest of it together a lot faster, because this way I have to go ahead and put the onions in and let it cook for a few more minutes as well. So I'm gonna stop here for a minute and let that brown, and then I'll come back. Okay, almost double click this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and add the onions. It's almost a chocolatey brown, really. And I'm gonna let them onions sizzle for a minute, but I'm gonna keep stirring it. I want to let those onions start turning clear for a minute. And then really the next thing you want to add is actually the andouille, because we want to fry some of the fats off that's going to help this whole base. Everybody has a different way of doing it, so you can do kind of what you want, as long as you keep the right ingredients and you don't mess it up or clump your flour or burn it. And I almost did, because I have a dog whining right now. He's having having his own personal issues today, but he's okay. Now I'm going to come back again. I'm going to let those brown up a little bit. Then I'm going to start adding the tomato sauce, the diced tomatoes. The okra will go, the chicken will go then, and the shrimp we will add very last. So technically I don't even need the shrimp sitting out here, but it doesn't really take that long, because then it all has to cook for a little while, and then I like to add the shrimp a little later, so it doesn't really, the shrimp overcooks and it gets tough. So, but I have a special way of cutting my shrimp, so it's a really neat way to do it, and it does something really neat. So, okay, we'll be back. Okay, we're back, and now I've let the andouille like brown up a little bit, and it's actually the fats came off of it, and this isn't the hottest andouille I've ever seen. So I added a tiny sprinkle of a little bit of cayenne pepper. So if you want to do that, because I'm used to hot Cajun Gumbo. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add this can of tomato sauce, and I'm going to stir it in. Okay. Sorry about that little distraction. Now my tomatoes. And also one more thing. Like I said, you don't have to add. See how it's like nice and smooth, and creamy, almost thick. See that? I go ahead. Now you can use different kinds of rice. This is an instant rice. So actually, I don't really have to add this till I add the shrimp later. So what I will do also is add more water. And I'm going to thin it down a little bit more. And then, see, it's still fairly thick. Also, hot sauce. You want to add some hot sauce to this. I don't know what kind of hot sauce you have. It depends on you how much you put in it. For me, Cajun Gumbo is supposed to be hot. Now this andouille here is not the traditional andouille that I use. I used to buy this stuff called no dines, but you have to buy 5 pounds of it, and it's like $5 a pound, and that was years ago. So technically now, I try to find some that looks decent. And the one thing about andouille is it should be kind of a red color, and that way you have that spiciness that's already in the sausage. The other thing is the chicken. Now, really, to me, I mean, if you eat gumbo a lot and you have grilled chicken left over from yesterday, you can dice that up, put it in here. If you have some fried chicken, dice it up, put it in. I don't care what kind of chicken you put in here. Some people boil it, some people grill it, some people fry it and they put it in here. It's your choice. But today I'm having, actually I had some leftover natural chicken tenders, so which were breaded, so that's what's going into mine today. And then okra as well. So I've got chicken, okra, shrimp, and the andouille. Now with gumbo, some people have andouille and chicken who don't like seafood. So if they don't put the shrimp, they'll have the andouille sausage and then they'll have the chicken. And then other people like their shrimp and would rather be without the chicken, so they'll have the andouille and the shrimp. So, but again, it's all on you. I like to put chicken, shrimp, and andouille because for me, it makes it like a very hearty meal. Plus putting the rice in it. They usually, now normally they take and cook the rice on the side, make the gumbo, and then they pour the rice over the gumbo over the rice, and I just put it in there. It really, it's a lot more convenient that way. You don't have to do it that way. You can go ahead and make this and then cook your rice on the side and put it over like they do. That's on you. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the okra, and then I may add more water. I'm gonna add the chicken, and like I said, it's still a little thick. See, you get a little thickening off of that, off the okra, like they said. But the okra it's an important part of gumbo. You can't just call it a thickener and leave it out because you think that gumbo filet is a thickener, and I don't leave gumbo filet out because it has its own flavor. So to me, it's stupid to leave either one of them out. It doesn't really, it messes up your gumbo. So I'm going to get a little bit more filtered water here and maybe add a little bit more to that, and I'm going to let it cook down for a little while. Then I'll put the rice in. You know what? That rice doesn't have to cook that long. Sorry. It works a little slow these days. And I'll tell you something about this sauce here, is you don't want to mess around. 2 shakes, maybe 3. If you go more with this one, the whole pot will be so hot you can hardly eat it. Because that's some of that really bad stuff. It's like death in a bottle kind of thing, you know. I call it pain in a bottle because if you eat too much of it, I mean, it hurts to eat it. I mean, your tongue hurts. So I keep it, you know, to a modest level. I'm just going to add the rice too. So you can do what you want with that. If you have a longer cooking rice, you'll want to put it early anyway. So that'll be the rice will cook down. And I'll add a little bit more water. Now we have a whole pot of gumbo here except for the shrimp. So we'll let this cook down a little bit. Oh, so I put about a tablespoon or a little under of the one redfish magic, I'll just call it that. You know what I'm talking about. And then Tony's Cacheros, which has salt in it, so you have to be careful with this one. It's a little hotter, but it has salt in it, so you have to be careful because you don't want to over salt and you want to taste it. I'll let it cook for a little while. I'll come back with you all. Sorry, I had a little camera malfunction earlier, but anyway, you want to go ahead and put a lid on it and then let it cook for about at least a half an hour. I let it go for about 40 minutes myself, but you'll want to come back and keep stirring it and not letting the okra and the andouille and the tomatoes and stuff burn to the bottom. And depends again, a lot of people turn their burner too high. You want to set it down on a low setting, or at least you know, low enough that it's not gonna burn so quick, and you can keep coming back and stir it, but you want it to cook. So right now it's probably about ready for me to put the shrimp in. And I did forget one other thing before I left, and I didn't, not just the lid, but also this here, this is hickory smoked salt. I put a tiny sprinkle in there, and I also added my gumbo filet. I put about maybe a tablespoon in here, and I stirred all that in and then put the lid on it, and I let it go for about 30 minutes. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add my shrimp in, and I'll be right back. I cut that off because I didn't want anybody to see how I cut my shrimp, because I have this little trick and it makes it do something really neat, and I'll show you here when it cooks for a few minutes, and it's really only got to cook for a couple more minutes. It seems a lot, it's really thick actually, so this would be great if you were going to put this on top of rice, but it's already got rice in it, so I don't really have to add any more. But what I think I'm going to do is add just a pinch more water because it's really thick. And I want you to show, I want you to see how my shrimp does. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more so it gets really good and hot again. So, and then I'm going to cut it off because it's been simmering for a little while. So the shrimp only has to cook for about 3 minutes. Tell y'all a little quick story here about this gumbo. Now, how does a guy who's from Kentucky? Well, I've lived in Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, Savannah, Georgia. I've lived all over the place. So I've worked with a lot of chefs who've been like all over the world. So how would I know how to make gumbo? But I'll tell you something right now. I had a guy. My wife went to school with a guy named Dan. He's an ex-police officer. He has a cousin who is from Louisiana. His name is actually Creole, believe it or not. And I want you to see, he came up here and I had just made a pot of this, and I was like, "You like gumbo?" He said, "Are you kidding? I love gumbo." I said, "I kind of thought that with a name like Creole, you know." So him and Dan, I gave them both a bowl of it, and he goes, "I'll tell you what," he said, "I've had a lot of gumbo," and he said, "That's one of the best gumbos I've ever had." So regardless of what anyone may think, because they do theirs different. Now look how my shrimp does. It cooks in this, makes spirals. You see that? That's how the way I slice it. And that's why I didn't want you to see, because that's one thing I'm not going to give away. Okay. If you already know and you've done it before, then that's you. But I think that's kind of an interesting little thing. So it has that, it almost gives that more of a seashell quality kind of to your shrimp. But anyway, it's actually done, and I will cut out and cut back in. You know what? I'll just go ahead and taste it now, and then we'll end the video. How's that? A little piece of shrimp, a little piece of okra. Andouille too, really. Yeah, get a piece of that andouille. All right. Too hot. Too hot. I just dropped my piece of andouille. I gotta go back again. Very hot. Be careful when you do this. Just enough heat. I'm about to put any more in that hot sauce. Very good. The smell in here is great. You just have easier to understand. Again, I believe that the filet adds its own flavor. The okra adds another flavor. You can't, to me, you can't make real gumbo without at least having the andouille and the shrimp. But some people have chicken and andouille, so I mean I guess that's on you, really. I like all three. Do what you want. Remember, most soup recipes, stuff, things like that, they're flexible. You can just about do anything. Have a good evening.